Cats can be mysterious, independent, and sometimes downright confusing. One moment they're rubbing against you like you're their favorite human, and the next, they're swiping at you for daring to exist. But what if I told you that some of these behaviors aren't just mood swings? They might actually be signs that your cat doesn't love you. Unlike dogs who show their love with tail wags and sloppy kisses, cats express affection in more subtle ways. And unfortunately, that means they also have subtle ways of showing disinterest or even dislike. The problem? Most people don't realize when their cat is tolerating them, rather than actually enjoying their company. In this video, we'll break down the clearest signs that your cat might not love you, or at least not as much as you think. Some of these might surprise you, and one of them could completely change the way you interact with your cat. Let's start with the first one. One that's easy to miss, but says a lot about how your cat feels. Sign 1. Your cat avoids you. Let's be honest. Cats love their alone time. But if your cat consistently avoids you, moves away when you enter a room, or even leaves the second you try to approach, that's not just independence. That's avoidance. A cat that loves you may keep their distance sometimes, but they'll also choose to be around you, even if it's just in the same room. If your cat never seeks you out, actively walks away when you get close, or constantly chooses to be in a different space, they might not be as attached to you as you'd hope. Now, some cats are naturally less social, so this doesn't always mean dislike. But if your cat used to enjoy your company and now avoids you, that's a red flag. Now, let's talk about something even clearer: a cat that flinches when you try to touch them. Sign 2. Your cat flinches or moves away from your touch. When a cat loves you, they usually enjoy your touch, at least on their terms. But if your cat flinches, shrinks back, or even ducks away when you try to pet them, that's a clear sign they're not comfortable with you. This can happen for a few reasons. Maybe they weren't socialized well as a kitten, or maybe they've had bad experiences with humans before. But if you've had your cat for a while and they still act like your touch is unpleasant, it might mean they just don't enjoy your presence. A loving cat will lean into your touch, purr, or at least tolerate a few head scratches. A cat that doesn't love you, they'll pull away, swat at you, or even leave entirely. But what about a cat that does tolerate your touch but never initiates it? That brings us to our next point. Sign 3. Your cat never seeks affection. Some cats aren't the cuddly type, and that's okay. But even the most independent cats show some signs of attachment, whether it's rubbing against your legs, sitting near you, or following you from room to room. If your cat never does any of these things, that's not a good sign. A cat that loves you will at least make some effort to be around you, even if they don't want to be touched. If your cat never seeks you out, never rubs against you, and never chooses to be in your space, it's possible they just don't feel that bonded to you. Of course, some cats are naturally more distant, so this isn't always a deal breaker. But if your cat avoids contact, ignores your presence, and seems completely indifferent to you, that's a bad sign. Now, let's talk about an even bigger warning: how your cat reacts when you try to engage with them. Sign 4. Your cat hisses, growls, or swats at you. This one is obvious. If your cat hisses, growls, or swats at you regularly, they're not happy with you. While occasional moodiness is normal, a cat that constantly reacts with aggression is clearly uncomfortable in your presence. This could be due to past trauma, a lack of trust, or simply because they don't like how you interact with them. Maybe you're too forceful with petting, maybe you invade their space too often, or maybe they just don't enjoy human contact. Whatever the reason, a cat that lashes out at you regularly is not a cat that feels safe or bonded with you. And the more you push their boundaries, the worse it gets. So if your cat shows this kind of behavior, it's time to take a step back and rebuild trust. But what if your cat isn't aggressive, just completely indifferent? That's where our final sign comes in. Sign 5. Your cat shows no interest in you at all. The final and most heartbreaking sign: your cat simply doesn't care about you. They don't avoid you, but they don't seek you out either. They don't react when you enter the room. They don't greet you when you come home. They don't show excitement for food, play, or interaction. It's like you're just there. A cat that loves you will show some reaction to your presence, even if it's subtle. Maybe they slow blink at you. Maybe they flick their tail when you speak. Maybe they at least glance your way when you enter the room. But a cat that doesn't love you, they'll act like you're no different from a piece of furniture. This kind of emotional distance usually happens when a cat never formed a strong bond with their owner. Maybe they were never socialized properly. Maybe they had a bad experience in the past. Or maybe they've just decided that they don't need you. But here's the good news. Cats are complicated, but they're not heartless. Even if your cat doesn't seem to love you now, there are ways to build that bond. Let's wrap this up. Sign 6. Your cat doesn't purr around you. Purring is one of the biggest signs of a happy cat. While cats can purr for different reasons, such as self-soothing, they often purr when they feel safe, comfortable, and content. If your cat never purrs around you, or only does it when you're not involved, it could mean they don't associate you with comfort. Some cats aren't big purrs, so this isn't always a deal breaker. But if they purr when lying in their favorite spot, when another person is petting them, or even when playing alone, but never when you interact with them, that's not a great sign. It means that while they might be content in their environment, they don't necessarily feel that way because of you. Now, let's move on to an even more obvious behavior: how your cat reacts when you try to pick them up. Sign 7. Your cat hates being picked up by you. Most cats prefer to have all 4 paws on the ground, but a cat that trusts and loves you will often tolerate being picked up, even if just for a short time. But if your cat immediately struggles, tries to escape, or even gets aggressive the second you lift them, that's a problem. Cats that dislike being picked up usually have one of 2 reasons. Either they were never properly socialized to being held, or they simply don't trust the person doing it. If your cat lets other people pick them up, but freaks out when you do it, that's a clear sign they don't feel safe in your hands. This can be improved with gentle handling and positive reinforcement. But if your cat absolutely refuses to let you hold them, especially when they're fine with others, it might be time to reconsider how they see your relationship. Now, let's talk about something that's not just about avoiding you, but outright ignoring you. Sign 8. Your cat ignores your voice. Cats are highly intelligent animals, and they can recognize their owner's voice from a distance. In fact, studies have shown that cats do distinguish their owner's voice from strangers. But here's the kicker: just because they recognize it doesn't mean they care. If you call your cat's name and they never respond, not even with a flick of the ear or a slight glance, this could be a sign that they're just not interested in you. A cat that loves and trusts you will at least acknowledge your voice, even if they don't always come running. However, if your cat completely ignores you all the time, no matter how friendly your tone is, that could mean they don't feel particularly bonded to you. Or worse, they just don't see you as someone worth paying attention to. Now, let's wrap this up with the final and most heartbreaking sign. Sign 9. Your cat never brings you gifts. This one might sound weird, but hear me out. If your cat is an outdoor hunter or even just a playful indoor cat, they sometimes bring their owners gifts. These gifts could be toy mice, feathers, or, if they're allowed outside, real prey like birds or insects. It might seem gross, but this is actually a sign of trust. Cats that love their humans often share their hunt as a way of providing for you, the way they would for a fellow cat or kitten. If your cat never does this, it could simply mean they don't see you as part of their social group. Of course, not all cats bring gifts, and some owners might be glad their cat doesn't drop a dead lizard on their pillow. But if your cat does hunt or play with toys and they never offer them to you, it could mean they don't see you as important enough to share with. So, now we've covered even more signs that your cat might not love you. From avoiding you entirely to ignoring your voice. From never purring to never bringing you gifts, these behaviors can all suggest that your cat isn't as attached to you as you'd hope. But don't lose hope. Cats form bonds differently than dogs, and even if your cat doesn't seem to love you now, that doesn't mean it's impossible to build trust. The key is patience, respect, and understanding their boundaries. Now, let's hear from you. Does your cat show any of these signs, or do they act like you're their favorite human? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more cat content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.